Hey, welcome to Cultivating Clarity. We're your hosts, Hallie and Hannah, and this is where your journey to self-discovery and fulfillment begins.
In each episode, we are going to explore the worlds of creativity, purpose, and community to bring you inspiring stories and practical advice on how to live a life true to yourself.
So let's get intentional, let's be vulnerable, but most importantly, let's have some fun along the way. So we've been talking about oil, and I want to go a little bit deeper because I've been thinking about this a little bit, right? And just the power of that extraction process.
Yeah.
And what is actually required to get oil, because when I think about oil, it's usually expensive.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like your cheap commodity that you just like get anywhere. It costs quite a bit. And so this process of extraction, I've been thinking about this over the week, and I'd love to hear from you too. But this kind of idea that I was getting was this extraction process and this to get oil out of the ground, out of a seed, out of leaves, however it's extracted. It has this parallel to our own lives and how there's this process of the oil that we carry, right? We were talking about this. We carry an oil. It's our purpose. It's the fullness of who we are. And when we can allow that oil to come to the surface, we're starting to really operate in the fullness of who we are, right? And so I wanted to kind of draw those parallels and talk about that extraction process of the oil in us personally and what that looks like. Because, here at Cultivating Clarity, we're all about being intentional. We're all about building and living lives of purpose. And how do we do that? So a couple of stories that came to mind in the Bible, actually, that really stood out to me is like Joseph, and totally jump in if and share some of the ones that come to mind for you. For anyone who doesn't know this story, Joseph was this he's this kid. He's I think he's the second youngest of all these brothers, right? 12 brothers. Yeah. And he would always get these dreams and these visions about his life. And he had this one dream that's been written down. And it's this dream of everyone in his family essentially bowing down to him. Yeah. And it comes in different forms, but he has this dream and he tells his family. And he's kind of already his dad's favorite. The brothers hate this. So he's telling his family, hey, I've had this dream. I think it means that I'm going to be some kind of leader. Yeah. You guys are all going to bow down to me. So this, you can just imagine the rage that this set off in his brothers, right? And they're just like, who do you think you are? You're like the little dweeb of the family. Anyway, so he has this vision. And when I relate that story back to my own life and our lives, how does that correlate? What's the connection? And the connection is we have a vision for our lives, right? We have that thing resonating at our core where we're like, oh, there's something. I have this vision, right? Yeah. It's like those dreams that Joseph was having. But then Joseph, is off doing his business. I can't remember if he's out tending the sheep or, but his brothers get this idea. Oh, look, he's out tending the sheep, right? And his brothers are like, if we go out to check on him, we could kill him, and we could just tell Dad that a lion attacked him or something like that. Yeah. And so one of the brothers is like, no, we can't kill him. That's just a little bit too far. So they throw him in a well. They throw him in a well, and then they sell him off to these slave traders. Yeah. And then he goes on his whole journey, and then along his journey, he ends up in Egypt. He gets thrown in prison. He gets forgotten. He gets like just all of these wild things happen to him that just look absolutely nothing like the vision of his whole family bowing down to him, right?
Right. They look opposite, if anything.
It looks opposite. But this is so important because I see this as being Joseph's extraction oil extraction process that he went through, because he ends up, at the end of the story, he ends up being like 2IC in Egypt. It's in the Bible, it's in the history books, like he's 2IC, his family comes, he's able to feed them, they end up back, they're like bowing down to him because he's saving their lives.
Yeah.
So his vision came true, but it looked nothing like that on the journey. And why I want to talk about this with you, Jimena, is because that's kind of like our journey.
Yeah.
To bringing anything to the surface. So what I want to know is, like, what are some of your stories? Let's break down some of our stories. What has this vision and what's the extraction process that you've been through or you're going through?
Mm-hmm. Well, the pieces that I'm connecting right now with the story that you've just introduced is the parallel that there is with Jesus and that there is with us. Because if anything, Joseph was this perfect mirror picture of Jesus. Jesus was rejected by his own family and friends, and he was sold, and he was, to the point of death in pain. And nothing looked like sense, like nothing made sense. That wasn't the way a king was meant to come and be a ruler. And this was what everybody was expecting. What Joseph was expecting was everybody was going to come and bow down. Yet, nothing happened like that. It was completely opposite. And I want to highlight some specific feelings and emotions here. There is rejection. There is disappointment. There is accusation, and I'd say there is pain. And I wonder how many of us, when we go through those feelings and moments in our own lives, we just say, we're on the wrong track. Quit. That's it. It's wrong. Mission aborted. This finished. This is not right. The reality is that, Tale, you and I have been through pain, disappointment, rejection, accusation. Yet all of those moments carry something so deep where you and I learn a deeper layer of identity, of love, a sense of belonging, where the real power and love comes from within. And I feel like that was what happened with Joseph. That was what happened with the Lord Jesus. He showed us a deeper, better, most powerful way. Yeah. And it's wonderful because it's so encouraging. That when we go through either of these that I just mentioned, rejection, disappointment, discouragement, we can look at those moments through a different lenses, knowing, wait a minute, some oil is being extracted right here, right now. Something is going to come out of this that is going to help people, that is going to help me, heal me, or help heal others. Last week we talked about the benefits of oil, that it heals, that it keeps a fire burning, that, it's got these amazing properties and is absolutely wonderful. But it's expensive to get it. So I feel like that was my first thought, and just a personal story. I connected immediately to grief. Like when I lost a loved family member, I felt my heart broke in a million pieces. My faith was shaking. My mind didn't have it together. My heart was all over the place. But yet, in that moment, I feel like I discovered a deeper level of love and faith, like all of those things that were in question, they had to be so shaken so that the real stuff would remain.
Yeah.
And I would say that I wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't because of those moments. And in that moment of grief, especially, it hit home for me. Like, do
Can
you
we
know it?
go into that a little bit? Like, can you tell us that story and just backtrack a little bit? Like, because I know we've been friends for a long time, and I know some of the little intricacies and back bits of the story, but I think it's important for people to understand, like, you had a vision, right? You're from Colombia. You had a vision. You had this real strong pull to first go to the United States, leave your family behind, and then go to England,
Yeah,
right? And so you were
yeah,
in England because you felt like that was part of your journey, that you were supposed to be there. So you're in England. And
yeah,
then just take us through the story. Like, what was happening for you? Like, you're in England, you feel like you're fulfilling your purpose. What happens?
yeah. Yeah, so I'm here, I'm in England, and it's probably been the second week of me landing in this part of the world. And I'm thrilled, like I'm looking around and I'm blown away. And
And
I
had you had
remember
all of
just
these things, you saw all of these things lining up, like, were on purpose, right? And like,
right, like it
wow, all
just
this
felt
doors
like,
opening, it's amazing.
yeah, it was amazing. And I was like so excited. My family were so excited. And I remember getting phone calls from my family, and they were like, "Oh my goodness, like this is great, this is fantastic. You know, God has opened all these doors. It looks fantastic. It looks great." And in one of those phone calls, I had a conversation with my auntie. And just to give you a little bit of context, my auntie was a woman of faith who prayed for me for years, and she would pray like fearless prayers. Like she would be like, "Imena, you know the word of God. You're going to go to the nations like since I was little. And you're going to share about Jesus wherever you go." Like, be so on it. And I would hear from them and be so happy. And then one of the evenings that I was just here, I remember it was kind of like midnight. And I was woken up by this phone call saying that my auntie had had an accident. But they couldn't even tell me what was going on. And I remember from midnight all night, I stayed up in my room crying that I wasn't there and not knowing exactly what was going on. And the pain, you gotta believe that she had always prayed for me to be able to pray for sick people and believe that they would be healed. She is the woman that would have prayed the prayers that I was just like dreaming about every day of my life. That I would go to nations, that I would make a difference, that I will help poor people, that I would, help children. In all of those things, like I remembered, and I remember that night was the longest night, and I cried so much. And then about 5 a.m. in the morning, I get the phone call saying that it was an accident, that it was just horrible accident, and she was like in the hospital and nobody had hope. Like it felt like it was just hopeless. And it was like that for about a week where she was in hospital and they were like trying to do everything they could. And I asked my family, like, I want to go back home. I want to go back home.
Because they're in Colombia
Yeah.
and you're in England.
And I'm in England. And I remember like my mom said to me, "You are still living those dreams. You will not stop. You are not coming back." And I didn't understand, but I knew my auntie wouldn't want me to go back. Like it was just crazy. It was this deep pain that did not make sense. And I remember just feeling in that room so like far away and just lost. Like literally you go out for a walk, and I remember like going out for a walk, being in this complete different place where everything was so far away from what I knew. Yet I felt like some way, somehow, something was gonna happen. It was gonna be okay. And yeah, when that week happened, after 7 days of literally pain and crying every day, every night, I get the phone call that, my family said, she's with the Lord. She has passed. And I can tell you, like, I felt my heart just fell, like it just broke completely. And I cried and cried and cried, and knowing that my family was in pain, it made me more like, just, the pain was so huge. But I knew I would never ever forget this. There was like this knowing in my heart that I knew something was gonna come out of it. And the crazy thing is, within that same month, the prayers that she prayed, like, boom, everything started to make sense. All of a sudden, I had a job at a church, and I had a place to live, and I had given a car. I had been given a car. And you can't make these things up. So my birthday was coming up, and in one of the phone calls, she had asked me, "Hey, baby girl, what do you want for your birthday?" And I literally jokingly go to her and say, "I would love a car, because I have no way to move around this place. Like, there is just like the distances where I was, there were like miles to go to the shops and miles to go anywhere else. It was like countryside England. Like you just see roads and roads and just, it's just no way." And within that same month, somebody just gave me a car. I had a home to live in, been given every opportunity to do all those things. Yeah. And like I look at it right now, and I'm working for that global charity that literally supports the poor in one of the toughest, some of the toughest places in the world. And children all over the world are getting an opportunity to study, and it was exactly that.
Yeah.
But the journey today looks so different to what I thought.
Yeah. Now that you can look back on that, what are the pieces that you take away and hold in your heart to remind you the next time that you're going through a hard thing, or that we can take with us as we're listening to your story? What can we take away? What do you take away from that story to help you in the next tough place, the next challenge?
Do you know, I would say my auntie loved me so genuinely. And it was knowing that I was loved, knowing that my auntie had faith in God, and she knew everything was going to be okay. It meant that for me, I knew I was loved, and I knew everything was going to be okay. There was a deep connection, and I feel like all of us, we carry a deep sense of faith within us. And perhaps, people don't know yet which direction their faith is pointing, but there is often a sense of deep belief, and I held on to that when nothing was making sense, when everything within me wanted to cry right away and scream and just finish. I'm out. I don't want to do this anymore. But deep down, I was like, something is going to happen. It will make sense one day. And it's been really 7 years since I came to England. Wow. And still today, like, I got this job that I'm telling you about. I've got it in the last 2 weeks. It's been a journey. And still today, I see the fulfillment of all those dreams and prayers. And I want to encourage you, it will take time. Yeah. Because it's about us. It's about what happens in our heart. And when we embrace pain, when we embrace, rejection or whatever it is, we find that actually those things can be powerful tools for that extraction, because they can get to places that not any happy, lovely moment in life can get us. Like, they can touch places within our heart and soul that no little happy moment can. Like, there is a way for pain to get in and get the stuff out. And And
Yeah.
we're talking about extraction, and I feel like if we were able to just look at those moments with a different perspective.
Yeah. And almost like hold
Right.
attention. Because,
Yes.
and these are the connections. If I try to wrap it up and join all the little dots, it's there is oil within each one of us.
Yes.
When we allow that oil, when we go on the process of allowing that oil to come to the surface, we begin to operate in our purpose. We begin to really live life authentically and in the fullest version of ourselves. And something that you always talk about, Jimena, is the values. Like, what are the values that you hold?
Right.
And when that oil is coming to the surface and you're connecting these little pieces and you're starting to understand, what do I value? Your values don't change no matter how challenging, whatever. Like, your values are kind of like what holds you true north.
Yeah.
And so as we're going on this journey of being intentional, of allowing more of our purpose, our fullness to come alive and to operate in this world, there's a journey that we're all going to go on. There's a journey that we've been on, and we're going to continue to go on. We're going to continue to go on this journey, but it looks very much like an oil extraction process, whether you're looking at getting oil from the ground and you have to drill through the hard surface of the earth, or it's a seed that is being crushed to get that oil out, right? There's a breaking down, there's a crushing, there's a lot of pressure. There's pressure and tension and discomfort that kind of breaks up the hard stuff. You know, our hard outer surface, our egos, our fears, it breaks that up so that the oil can come to the surface. And so, you know, your story, as painful as that journey was, and thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing, because hearing that and hearing the details of what you've gone through is like, okay, that's what it can look like practically. That's one way it can look. So it kind of gives me just another little piece in my pocket to remember when I'm going through hard things. I can think about, okay, what if this is part of an oil extraction process? And there is a skill in knowing what hard to pursue and continuing it, and what hard is not, because there is some hard that you're actually not supposed to be in.
Right.
But there is hard that is connected to your journey that may not make sense.
Yeah.
Comes back to your values. If you ever get confused with this little piece, or you're having troubles with it, reach out. We're happy to chat. Like, comment, reach out, find us. Like, we're happy to have a chat with you. Yeah, because it's going through that journey. And so what I want to leave people with, and what I want to take away from this conversation is, when hard things come, don't run, don't turn away. Hold the tension, practice holding that tension and being in that pressure. Shifting your perspective, like you said, like having a perspective connected to your values.
Yeah.
So that oil can come to the surface. So that's what's really standing out for me, and what I'm going to take away from this. So what is it for you, Jimena?
I love what you just said, though, because you were also saying, okay, how do we know when like the pain is being there for a reason? And it's very easy. You can just ask yourself a couple of questions.
Go for it, yeah.
You can ask, am I growing? Deeply, like, really, am I growing? Am I uncomfortable? And is it a good uncomfortable? Because there is uncomfortable for or is this making me stretch? Is this making me go out of my comfort zone and and like literally hold and grow? Is this making me more steadfast? More, is this growing my endurance? Is this like, what is happening as you go through it? What is happening? You can look at your character, you can look at your actions, you can look at the way you speak. Like, what is happening? Have a really good look inside and pause. And let's make the most of those moments, because, you know, we can look at them and think, I'm not going to waste this. I'm not going to waste it. Because I can guarantee you the best wisdom will come out of those moments. The best ideas, you know, the best you will come out of those moments.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, like, perhaps you've gone through grief. Perhaps you've gone through a divorce or a broken relationship. Please, you know, sit and think, what has grown? What has changed? And get that oil out. There is still time. Even if you have already been through it, you can still get that oil out, because you can still value and celebrate. And with gratitude in your heart, you can hold that situation, that moment, and learn from it.
Yeah.
And yeah, this has been a wonderful conversation, but that is my biggest takeaway. Let's not waste our oil. Let's use it. Let's get it out.
I love it. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Cultivating Clarity. In the hope you found some inspiration, had a good laugh, and maybe found a new perspective. Make sure you subscribe to stay up to date with our latest episodes. And if there was something you particularly liked in this show, please share it with a friend. We'd also love to connect with you on social, so come and find us at Intentional Studios and I Am the Freedom Collective for more fun and insights. Links are going to be in the show notes.
And if you have a topic that you would like us to cover, drop us a message or a comment. And remember to keep cultivating your clarity and appreciate the small joys in life. See you next time. Bye-bye.